the macrocosm. Macrocosm means big world because it refers to the entire universe. The microcosm. Microcosm means small world because every human soul is a small world. The microcosm is symbolized by Adam Kadmon, the first human being. How can we understand both macrocosm and microcosm? Is there one blueprint that can reveal and explain to us the true nature of the universe and of the human soul? The ancient Kabbalists have discovered such a blueprint. In the Bible, it is called the Tree of Life. Such a blueprint must encompass everything that exists, from the greatest spiritual dimensions to the densest matter. In every spiritual work and in anything we do, we should always begin by directing our thoughts to the divine source. Let the divine be symbolized by a brilliant white sphere of light above us. Let the world of matter be symbolized by another sphere below us. Let the sphere of matter be colored in the earthly colors of the four elements. Between the divine and the world of matter is the sphere of pure consciousness. Consciousness is more than just dense form, but it is still merely a manifestation of the source of all things. Let the sphere of consciousness be coloured in bright yellow or gold. Let's repeat what we have learned so far. Repetition will help us to remember it. The divine. Matter. Consciousness. Between pure consciousness and matter is the sphere of the subconscious. Let the sphere of the subconscious be coloured in deep purple. The subconscious mediates between consciousness and matter. The divine. Consciousness. Subconscious. Matter. Between pure consciousness and the sphere of the subconscious is the realm of human thought. Let the sphere of creative thought be coloured in a fresh and inspiring green. Let the sphere of analytical thought be coloured in a clear and sharp orange. Notice that the sphere of analytical thought is on the left, like the left hemisphere of the brain. And the sphere of creative thought is on the right, like the right hemisphere of the brain. The divine. Consciousness. Creative thought. Analytical thought. The subconscious. Matter. Above individual consciousness is the realm of ethics and karma. Let the sphere of mercy be coloured in a royal blue. Let the sphere of severity be coloured in an alarming red. The sphere of mercy represents the positive commandments, thou shalt. The sphere of severity represents the negative commandments, thou shalt not. The divine. Mercy. Severity. Consciousness. Creative thought. Analytical thought. The subconscious. Matter. Above the realm of ethics and karma is the spiritual world. The spiritual world consists of a positive and a negative principle. Positive and negative should not be confused with good and evil. Positive and negative is all about give and take, day and night, male and female, etc. It is like the well-known yin and yang symbol. Let the sphere of the positive principle represent spiritual wisdom. Let it be coloured in grey to symbolise the grey hair of wisdom. Let the sphere of the negative principle represent spiritual understanding. Let it be coloured in black to symbolise absorption of energy. Human beings cannot access the spiritual plane as easy as the other planes. There is an abyss that separates the human world from the spiritual plane. The abyss is the reason why many people are unaware of the spiritual world. There is, however, an invisible bridge over the abyss. This invisible bridge may be found by mystics who honestly seek the divine. The nature of this bridge is revealed in the teachings of the Holy Kabbalah. Let's repeat once more all we have learned so far. The divine. Positive. Negative. The bridge over the abyss. Mercy. Severity. Consciousness. Creative thought. Analytical thought. The subconscious. Matter. These are the 10 holy Sefirot of the Tree of Life. They are connected by 22 paths. Each Sephirot represents one essential principle of existence. 22 paths represent the essence of subjective experience. The 10 holy Sephirot and the 22 paths are sometimes called the 32 paths of wisdom. These are the names and numbers of the 10 holy Sephirot. 1. Keter, the crown. 2. Chachma, wisdom. 3. Binah, understanding. 4. Gnosis. 4. Chesed, mercy. 5. Gevurah, strength. 6. Tiferet, beauty. 7. Netzach, victory. 8. Hod, glory. 9. Yesod, foundation. 10. Malchut, the kingdom. The 22 paths of wisdom are the keys to the 22 trumps of the tarot. The 10 holy Sefirot are the keys to the lesser arcana of the tarot. The Tree of Life is also the secret key to astrology and many other arts. These are some traditional drawings of the Tree of Life, an ancient Kabbalistic text. In these writings they are called Sefirot, in the singular Sephirot. The term Sefirot can be translated as countings, which means basic principles of creation existing by themselves. On the Tree of Life, there are 10 Sefirot and another important principle, which is however not considered as a Sephirot. We will discuss all of them in this video series. Let's look at how each of these videos will be structured. Each video starts with some basic information about the Sephirot, such as name, number, colour, symbolism, and different assignments. These various assignments play an important role for practical magical work. In addition, they represent the different levels of meaning on the Sephirot. Although the assigning of symbols is an important aspect of practical work with the Tree of Life, there is much more to be considered. The true wisdom of the Kabbalah goes far beyond. The macrocosm. The word macrocosm is composed of the Greek words macro, which means great, and cosmos, which means order or universe. It means great order and refers to our universe. The microcosm. Microcosm means small order and refers to we humans. The macrocosmic Tree of Life describes the principles of abstract and high-level concepts as well as the principles of creation. The microcosmic Tree of Life describes principles of concrete and practical processes. The tarot, along with astrology, the tarot is one of the pillars of the Western mystery tradition, and it is closely linked to the Tree of Life. We will also introduce to you the specific criteria for personal development, character training and spiritual growth, and how these criteria are assigned to each Sephirot. Virtues and vices, a pure soul, as well as high ethical principles and their application, are the attributes of a true student of the mysteries. The Tree of Life also describes the process of spiritual development. Therefore, the virtues that the student aspires to are linked to the Sephirot. If a virtue is not practiced in a balanced manner or not at all, the corresponding vice will often become apparent. Now we would like to invite you to watch the whole video series. Preferably start with the first video about Keter. From the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light that is beyond any form of existence, emanates Keter, the first Sephirot. Keter corresponds to the number one, complete divine unity, the one divine beyond duality. The colour of Keter is pure, bright white, traditionally, according to the Kabbalist Cordovero, radiant, dazzling white. Keter means crown because it represents the highest principle, the crown of existence. Keter is the origin of all being. In Keter all is one, because Keter contains within itself the totality of all things. In Keter, neither space nor time nor any form of separation exists. The divine name of Keter is Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, literally, I will be who I will be, meaning I am the eternal being. The archangel of Keter is Metatron, the prince of the countenance. The prophet Enoch lived a life in alignment to the highest principles, and he was transformed into the archangel Metatron. Metatron is traditionally regarded as the highest of the archangels. He stands face to face with God. The angels of Keter are the Hayot HaKodesh. This means the holy beings. They are the four exalted angelic beings that carry the throne of God in Ezekiel's vision. Keter, the first Sephirot, in which everything is still inextricably linked together, can be compared to a point. Mathematically, the point has no extension and is the all-unity. Another symbol of Keter is the altar light. In practical magic or ritual work, the altar light is located in the center of the altar. It represents the eternal, divine, primordial light which we always turn to. From this forever burning light, an infinite number of lights can be lit. Another assignment is the allegorical description of an old bearded man in profile as a symbol of the one God. Traditionally, it is said that the side that is not visible has female characteristics, symbolizing that the passive aspect of Keter is directed towards the Ein Sof, the unmanifest, and the active aspect is faced towards creation. The planet Pluto is assigned to Keter. In Kabbalistic astrology, Pluto represents the uncompromised striving for the best, because Keter is the purest, most perfect, and most sacred principle. In the Kabbalistic tradition, we also find the term Reshit HaGilgalim, which means the beginning of the swirling movements, and may well be thought of as analogous to the Big Bang. In the human body, the crown of the head is assigned to Keter. In Refuah, the Western way of spiritual healing as taught by Salomo Baal Shem, we use the focused devotion to this highest principle and apply it to the human body. You will find the link in the video description. It is the crown of the head through which the divine healing energy is received. In Hebrew, this divine healing energy is called Shefa. The level of the soul associated with Keter is called Yechidah. This is the stage of development of the soul where there is no separation. The four aces of the tarot are assigned to the Sefirot Keter. They stand for the primordial forces of the elements. The virtues of Keter are perfection, completeness, and completion of the great work. In Keter there are no vices. The spiritual experience of Keter is union with God. However, this is not a permanent state as long as a human being is still incarnated. That is why it is called adhering to God in the Hebrew tradition. student of the mysteries experiences that there is no longer any separation at that level, and that all things are directly interlinked and interwoven. You may now wish to watch videos about the other Sefirot on the Tree of Life. It would be best to proceed with part 2, Chokhmah. Second Sephirot emanates. Chokhmah means wisdom, because in Chokhmah the will of God manifests as the divine plan. Chokhmah is the divine principle of fatherly creative power. The number 2 corresponds to a line that comes out of a point and thus connects 2 points, just as the first soul sparks appear out of the unity of Keter. Thus Chokhmah embodies the creative will of God. The divine name of Chokhmah is Yah. This is a short form of the Tetragrammaton. The archangel of Chokhmah is Ratziel, the will of God, or also Raziel, mystery of God. The angels of Chokhmah are the Ophanim, the wheels. The emanation of Chokhmah out of Keter is the emanation of a line from a point. For this reason, the magical wand is also a symbol of Chokhmah. In the spiritual work, the wand stands for the will of the mystery student, which is focused onto one point with dedication and in accordance with the higher will. Another symbol of Chokhmah is the bright pillar called Yachin, the upright. Yachin, the right pillar in front of the Temple of Solomon, corresponds to the right pillar at the Tree of Life, which is called the Pillar of Mercy. The Sefirot Chokhmah, Hesed, and Natzach from the right pillar on the Tree of Life. The Pillar of Mercy represents the creative and constructive powers of the universe. The allegorical representation of Chokhmah is an elderly bearded man. This is a symbolic representation of the active creative principle of wisdom. Another level of meaning corresponding to Chokhmah is the positive active male spiritual principle. The planet Neptune is assigned to Chokhmah. Neptune indicates how and in which area of life we see visions and transcend the earthly world. Traditionally, the Masalot, which is the Hebrew word for the 12 signs of the zodiac, are assigned to Chokhmah. In the human body, the left brain hemisphere is assigned to Chokhmah. The soul level of Chokhmah is called Hayah, which means soul spark. To Chokhmah, we assign the 4 twos of the tarot. The twos of the tarot represent the pure principle of each element and stand for the first manifestation of each element from the divine source. The 4 knights of the tarot's court cards also belong to Chokhmah. The virtues of Chokhmah are devotion and unreserved dedication. There are no vices assigned to Chokhmah. The spiritual experience of Chokhmah is the sight of God face to face. Through this experience, the mystery student gets an insight into a part of creation and the divine will. Now, you might like to take a look at the following video in this series, which is part 3, Binah. Binah. In the previous video, we considered Chokhmah, the second Sefirot. From Chokhmah emanates Binah, the third Sefirot. Binah means insight or understanding, because in Binah the wisdom of Chokhmah becomes certainty. In Binah the higher soul understands the meaning of destiny. Binah is the passive divine principle, the maternal receptive form. The divine name of Binah is Yad He Vav He Elohim. The archangel of Binah is Safkiel, which means contemplation of God. The host of angels of Binah are the Erelim, which can be translated as the altars of God. After the line that connects 2 points, which we previously learned is a symbol of Chachmah, we now find a first form in Binah consisting of 3 points which can be connected to form a triangle. Just as the line in Chachmah corresponds to the staff and phallus, the active male divine principle, we find in Binah the negative, receiving feminine divine principle in the form of the triangle, which corresponds to the chalice and the uterus. The chalice corresponds to the formative principle and is assigned to the water element. It symbolizes conception, love, and higher insight, amongst other things. Another symbol of Binah is the dark pillar called Boaz. Boaz means therein is power. Boaz, the left pillar in front of the Temple of Solomon, corresponds to the left pillar of the Tree of Life. It is called the Pillar of Severity. Besides Binah, it also includes Gevurah and Hod. The Pillar of Severity stands for the restrictive and limiting powers of the universe. Just as the creative forces in the universe are important, we also need the limiting forces, just as a river needs its bed in order not to dry up. It is due to the limiting force of the riverbed that a river can flow powerfully in one direction. The planet Saturn is assigned to Binah. Saturn stands for the seriousness of life, discipline, and self-restraint. Through our engagements with our destiny, Saturn, we gain insight, Binah, into the higher meaning of our life, Neshama. The Neshama, which is the Hebrew word for breath of life, is the level of the soul assigned to Binah. The Neshama corresponds to our higher immortal self. We also refer to it as the holy guardian angel. In the human body, the right brain hemisphere is assigned to Binah. In the tarot, we assign the 4 threes of the minor arcana to Binah. Just as in Binah a first form emerges, the threes correspond to the first effects of each element. The 4 queens of the tarot's court cards are also assigned to Binah. The virtue of Binah is silence. Silence is also one of the 4 cardinal virtues of the mystery students. The vice of Binah is stinginess or exaggerated restraint. The spiritual experience of Binah is the vision of mourning. Deep down we realize that ultimately there is no reason to grieve, because everything in the universe has its higher meaning and necessity. The color of Binah is black. Black stands for grief and for receiving or absorbing. The traditional colors of Binah, according to Cordeiro, are yellow or gold. These symbolize higher insights and enlightenment. Another traditional color of Binah is green, which stands for fertility. Have a look at the other videos about the Sephirot on the Tree of Life. It would be best to continue with part 4, Chesed. In the early Kabbalistic teachings, Dart was not considered a Sephirot. Also, there is no number assigned to Dart. As the Sefer Yetzirah says, 10 Sefirot, Blima, 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. In the course of the development of the Kabbalistic teachings, Dart was sometimes regarded as one of the Sephirot. Dart is an important principle on the Tree of Life and is sometimes referred to as the invisible Sephirot. Dart means gnosis, because Dart is the transformation point, in which the vibrational frequencies of the higher principles are transformed so that they can be recognized by human consciousness. We distinguish a higher and a lower aspect of Dart. Dart Elyon, the higher aspect of Dart, is considered the external reflection of Keter and connects the male, that is Chokhmah, with the female, Binah. As it is said in the Sefer Bereshit, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived. Adam and Eve are symbols of the original male and female principles. Gnosis is a synonym for sexual, mental, and spiritual union. Dart Takton, the lower aspect of Dart, refers to the abyss, the separation between the higher and lower planes. The abyss is a symbol of the separation from the spiritual levels that we humans cannot directly reach, from the lower levels into which we are incarnated. The abyss separates the upper three Sefirot, Keter, Chokhmah, and Binah, the pure spiritual principle, from the 7 lower Sefirot, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. At the same time, Dart Takton also stands for the connection between the higher and the lower planes, and it represents the bridge over the abyss. Dart is like the focal point of a lens in which the higher principles transform, so that they can be recognized and grasped by human consciousness. This principle becomes apparent in the symbol of Dart, the prism. Through the prism, the light is refracted and visible in the form of the 7 spectral colours. Those correspond to the 7 lower Sefirot. The prism is considered the cornerstone of the world, as described in the Zohar. That when the Holy One, blessed be He, was about to create the world, He detached one precious stone from underneath His throne of glory and plunged it into the abyss, out of which the world started, spreading itself to right and left and into all directions, and by which it is sustained. That nucleus, that stone, is called Even Shetiha, foundation, as it was the starting point of the world. The following assignments have proven useful for the practical work of the students of the mysteries. We use Yod He Vav He, Elohim, as the divine name. Both Yod He Vav He and Elohim combine the polarity of male and female, as this is a function of Dart. In Yod He Vav He, Yod and Vav are considered male, and the 2 He are considered female. Elohim can be seen as a female word form with a male plural. The archangel of Dart is Uriel. The meaning is light of God or fire of God. The angels of Dart are the Irim, guardians, who are also called Grigori. They observe mankind and watch over them. They are also seen as teachers of mankind, who taught scripture, science and wisdom. In Kabbalistic astrology, we assign the planet Uranus to Dart. Uranus shows how and in what area a person takes the impulse for further development and strives for change. Uranus is sometimes called the Great Transformer. Remember an important function of Dart on the Tree of Life. Hebrew Etz Chaim is transformation. The allegorical representation of Dart, which symbolizes its importance as a transformation point, as a bridge over the abyss, and as a connecting point of opposites, is the face looking in two directions. This idea of having two faces can be found, for example, in the form of the god Janus in Roman mythology. Janus was the god of the gates, the entrance and exit, as well as new beginnings. In the human body, the larynx is assigned to Dart. Dart is considered to be the upper reflection of Yesod, the generative center, and corresponds to the tongue according to the Sefer Yetzirah. Language is another example of the function of Dart. The speaking apparatus allows us to transform thoughts into a perceptible form. When our soul is pure, our intention is directed towards higher goals, and our abilities to perceive and understand the inner and higher levels are objectively advanced. The higher planes may reveal themselves in meditation to our consciousness. When we write our meditation records, we bring these insights about spiritual concepts into an intelligible verbal form of expression. The color of Dart is silver grey, like the reflections of a mirror surface. Also, lavender is sometimes used as a color, since lavender represents the gentle, not easy to grasp character of Dart. Traditionally, Dart was viewed as transparent. The virtues of Dart are equanimity, virtuousness, confidence in the future, independence from the influences of the mortal personality, and the spiritual pursuit of death. Striving for death does not mean the dying of the body, but the transformation of the mortal personality. As Goethe once wrote, "Tell it none except the wise, for the common crowd defames. Of the living I shall praise that which longs for death in flames. And until you have possessed dying and rebirth, you are but a sullen guest on the gloomy earth." The vices of Dart are unfeelingness, apathy, isolation, inhumanity, hopelessness, uncontrolled impulsivity, and chaos. The spiritual experience of Dart is the crossing of the abyss. Benevolence or love, because Chesed is the benevolent growth-giving and constructive principle. Chesed is the benevolent law-giving principle that enables a righteous order. After 3 points were connected to a first form in Binah, an expansion of the form into space arises with the 4th point in Chesed. So Chesed embodies a form in which the higher ethical principles find a framework to unfold, grow, and thrive. The divine name of Chesed is El, which means God. It can also mean mighty one or ruler. The archangel of Chesed is Tzadkiel, which means righteousness of God. The host of angels of Chesed are the Chashmalim, the glittering or luminous ones. Some symbols of Chesed are the tetrahedron, the scepter, and the imperial orb. They are all connected to the idea of a righteous order.
Thus, this principle is symbolized by a majestic king on his throne. The planet Jupiter is assigned to Chesed. Jupiter stands for our values and the worldview which is derived from these values. In the human body, Chesed is associated with the left arm. In the macrocosmic tree of life, Chesed is assigned to the higher mental plane and stands for positive ethics. Thou shalt. We assign the fours of the minor arcana to Chesed. They stand for an established order. The virtues of Chesed are loyalty, obedience, fidelity, righteousness, morals, and benevolence. The vices of Chesed are opportunism, hypocrisy, narrow-mindedness, blind confidence, blind obedience, weakness, and defenselessness. The spiritual experience of Chesed is the vision of love. On the other hand, this experience is the feeling of unconditional, unlimited, and all-embracing love for all living beings. It is also the experience and the feeling of unconditional and limitless divine affection, which comes from an infinite source of divine love. The color of Chesed is royal blue. The color of the semi-precious stone lapis lazuli was associated with wealth. According to Cordovero, the color of Chesed is white or silver and symbolizes. Gevurah means force, strength, or power, because in Gevurah lies the principle of assertiveness. Gevurah is the executive power that overcomes evil with just and righteous severity. After a three-dimensional shape emerged with Chesed, a further dimension comes into existence with Gevurah, the dimension of motion, which also implies time. The color of Gevurah is scarlet. Red is the color of fire and a signal color that has a warning function in nature. Traditionally, according to Cordovero, the color of Gevurah is also red, as well as gold. Gold generally stands for the fiery, solar principle. We remember Chesed represents the passive formative principle that offers space for growth and facilitates a righteous order. In Gevurah, we find the active force principle, which protects this order, but which can also strive beyond it to achieve progression. Another name of Gevurah is Din, which means justice or law. Gevurah is the principle of an active limiting force that guarantees and fights for justice. Thus, Gevurah is also connected to the principle or law of karmic justice. Karmic justice is the acceptance of responsibility for one's own actions, as well as for one's omitted actions. Another name is Pachad, which means fear, dread, or awe. Awe is an important skill that helps us to maintain the right attitude towards the mysteries and creation. The fear spoken of here specifically relates to the aspect of active protection from evil and to the deterrent effects of power and strength. The divine name of Gevurah is Elohim Gibor. This means strong God or powerful God. The archangel of Gevurah is called Chamael, which means heat of God or wrath of God. The host of angels of Gevurah are the Seraphim, which means the burning ones. They are the angels who are responsible for the execution of divine consequences, such as the destruction of the sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Some symbols of Gevurah are the sword and the spear. The pictorial representation of Gevurah is a mighty warrior on a chariot. Other symbols are the pentagram, as well as the pentagon, so we can see that the pentagram also has a reference on the Tree of Life. The planet Mars is assigned to Sephirot. Mars indicates in which area of life and in which way we use our powers and energies. In the human body, the right arm is assigned to Sephirot. This is usually also the sword arm. In the macrocosmic Tree of Life, Sephirot is assigned to the higher mental plane, also called the causal plane. Sephirot is the principle of negative ethics, the prohibitions, thou shalt not. Just as Chesed embodies the creative passive principle of form on the pillar of mercy, Sephirot stands for the active limiting principle of force on the pillar of severity. In their functions, we can compare Chesed and Sephirot with the legislative and the executive powers, or even with the anabolic and catabolic forces of our body. The fives of the minor arcana are assigned to Sephirot. They stand for difficulties and trials. The virtues of Sephirot are courage, bravery, assertiveness, discipline, and sense of justice. The vices of Sephirot are cruelty, hatred, vengeance, and blind destructiveness. The spiritual experience of Sephirot is the vision of power. This is the experience of acting in accordance with the divine will, through which the student of the mysteries is supported by divine power. It is also true cognition and the deep knowledge of one's own magical potential. As a result, the magician feels he can cope with any situation and act optimally therein. The next video is about the Sefirot Tiferet. It forms the center of the Tree of Life and is directly connected with all other Sefirot except Malchut. Tiferet means beauty because Tiferet is the principle of balance and harmony. For in Tiferet, pure consciousness balances out the polarities. In Sephirot, we had reached the principle of movement. In Tiferet, the movement becomes aware of itself. Tiferet is also the principle of individual consciousness. The color of Tiferet is yellow or gold. These are the colors of the sun and symbols of light. Gold, the noblest of the metals, symbolizes character refinement. Traditionally, the colors gold and purple or violet were assigned to Tiferet. In ancient times, purple was reserved only for kings and high priests. Another traditional color is a yellowish green, the color of the fruit etrog, which plays an important role in the Jewish tradition. Tiferet is located on the middle pillar, which is named after it, as in pillar of consciousness or pillar of equilibrium. Sometimes the middle pillar is also called column of consciousness or column of beauty. The pillar of consciousness corresponds to man, who, between the bright and the dark pillar, strides through the entrance of the temple and becomes aware of the polarities in himself and in the universe. It is the task of consciousness, Tiferet, to consciously weigh up and decide between the benevolent, constructive forces in Chesed and the limiting, restraining forces in Sephirot. Between the legislative power, which is assigned to Chesed, and the executive power, which belongs to Sephirot, Tiferet corresponds to the judicial power. Further names of Tiferet are Emet, truth, Mishpat, judgment, and Rachamim, compassion. Tiferet is also referred to as the seat of Solomon. King Solomon is still known today for his wise jurisdiction. The divine name of Tiferet is Yod He Vav He Eloah Ve'Daat. Eloah is a poetic form of El, which means God. Ve'Daat means and gnosis. Eloah Ve'Daat therefore means God and gnosis, or God and cognition. The archangel of Tiferet is Raphael. The meaning of Raphael is healer of God, Malachim, which means messengers or simply angels. Some symbols of Tiferet are the laman, the hexagram, the rosy cross, and the cube. All these symbols are related to the Sephirot Tiferet, or describe one aspect of Tiferet. Let's take a closer look at the laman and the hexagram. The laman describes an office or task of the mystery student. This can be a certain position in ritual work, such as the officer of a quarter, temple guardian, temple scribe, or temple messenger. This laman here denotes a refuah practitioner. The hexagram, the six-pointed star, is an important symbol in the Kabbalah and the Western mystery tradition. It is also referred to as the seal of Solomon, or the Magen David, which means shield of God. In the hexagram, the four elements represented by their alchemical symbols are combined to a harmonious arrangement. This corresponds to the balancing function and the harmony of Tiferet. In ritual symbolism, the hexagram corresponds to the higher source of the elements. The allegorical pictorial representation of Tiferet is a majestic king or a male child. Another symbolic representation which reveals a further meaning of Tiferet is the martyr. He stands for sacrifice, especially for letting go of his ego for a higher purpose. Here we see the philosopher Socrates, faithful to his ideals, who empties the cup of hemlock and dies a martyr's death. The sun is assigned to Tiferet. In Kabbalistic astrology, it corresponds to our basic character. The position of the sun in the horoscope shows how and in what area of life we express our individuality. In the human body, the solar plexus corresponds to Tiferet. Tiferet is assigned the soul level of Ruach. Ruach means spirit or breath. Ruach is the pure human consciousness. The sixes of the minor arcana belong to Tiferet. They stand for success according to the nature of their element. The kings or princes of the court cards are also assigned to Tiferet. The virtues of Tiferet are self-knowledge, devotion to the great work, humility, readiness to make sacrifices, and inner peace. The vices of Tiferet are pride, arrogance, vanity, egotism, and a know-it-all manner. The spiritual experience of Tiferet is the vision of the harmony of things. It is the experience that everything that happens is part of the divine plan. Isn't it fascinating that the principle Netzach means victory, eternity, or vitality, because Netzach is the source of victorious inspiration. Netzach is the principle of creative artistic thinking. Netzach is located on the lower mental plane on the Tree of Life. Part of this plane is thinking as a mental activity. Netzach is also on the pillar of mercy and thus is creative. Consequently, Netzach combines thinking and creativity and is therefore the principle of creative thinking. Netzach also stands for inspiration and the lower form of prophecy. The higher form of prophecy can be found in the visions of Chachma. The color of Netzach is emerald green. It is the color of hope, vitality, the vegetative power of plants, and erotic love. Traditionally, a bright pink is assigned to Netzach, the color of the upper eyelids. We can associate the eyelids with the lower form of prophecy, and long eyelashes on the eyelids are an ideal of beauty. In addition to the creative inspirations, we also find the ability for charm and grace in Netzach. Netzach also stands for the pure erotic art of seduction, but not for sexuality, which belongs to Yesod. The symbols of Netzach are the red rose and the belt. They are Venusian symbols. The rose is the symbol of love. It symbolizes the passion, the depth and the tenderness of affection between lovers. The belt encloses the loins and provides grace and seductive power to mythological figures who wear it. The divine name of Netzach is Yod He Vav He Tzevot. That means Lord of Hosts. In this name, David, a young Israeli shepherd, faces the giant Philistine warrior Goliath. David conquers the almost invincible Goliath with creative and victorious inspiration. In the name of the Lord of Hosts, David brings victory to the army of the Israelites. The archangel of Netzach is Chaniel. That means grace of God. Chaniel inspires us to aesthetics and artistic talent. His name can also mean mercy of favor of God. He is the bestower of charisma and is thus considered the founder of friendship and love between people. The angelic hosts of Netzach are the Elohim. This means gods. These angels are similar to the lower gods of other traditions, such as the Graces and Muses of Greek and Roman mythology. In astrology, we assign the planet Venus to Netzach. The position of Venus in the horoscope shows how and in what area of life we apply our charm and our creativity. In the human body, the left loin, the left hip and the left leg are assigned to Netzach. Also, the sevens of the minor arcana are assigned to Netzach. The sevens stand for a possible victory, but we should not allow ourselves to be dominated by our inclinations. The virtues of Netzach are creative thinking, a sense for aesthetics, the ability to arouse inspiration and enthusiasm, charisma, as well as charm and grace. The vices of Netzach are craving for pleasure, hedonism, and manipulation. The allegorical pictorial representation of Netzach is a beautiful naked woman. The spiritual experience of Netzach is the vision of victorious beauty. In terms of the meaning of Netzach, we can also call this experience a vision of divine. Hod means fame, glory, or splendor. Because Hod gives a shape or form to the victory of Netzach. For example, through the writing of a narrative, saga, or in the form of a myth. Hod is part of the pillar of severity, which has limiting or restricting functions. Hod, like the Sephirot Netzach, is situated on the lower mental plane, which stands for thinking. Remember, Netzach represents the power aspect of the mental plane, while Hod represents the form aspect of the mental plane. Thus, Hod is the logical, analytical aspect of thinking. To Hod belongs writing and language. The symbols of Hod are the holy names, the prayers and invocations, the occult books and grimoires, as well as the magical diary, and the dagger. The dagger symbolizes the analytical aspect of Hod. Thinking is mainly about connecting data and information, but also about dissolving, correcting and recombining them. To slice, dissect and cut out with the dagger symbolizes the sharp mind. The logical, analytical thinking and a well-developed mind that can draw upon a lot of interconnected information are important characteristics necessary for the progress of the mystery student on his spiritual path. For in the spiritual practice of Kabbalah, we do certainly not reject thinking. We want to perfect every aspect of the soul, including, of course, the mental one. Among the abilities of mythical magicians such as Dumbledore, Gandalf and Merlin are their intelligence and prudence, for which they are well known. The same is true for King Solomon, who was famous for his profound wisdom, and who is said to have been a master of Kabbalah and magic. Also, the legendary Agrippa of Nettesheim was a polymath who was highly esteemed for his prudence. His extensive work on occult philosophy is still one of the most enriching sources for the student of the mysteries today. The colour of Hod is orange. It is the colour of the intellect. Traditionally, according to Cordovero, the colour dark pink is assigned to Hod. Like Netzach, Hod is associated with the lower form of prophecy. What is the role of Hod in conceiving higher concepts that lie beyond rational thinking? The following analogy shall illustrate this. If a two-dimensional drawing represents a three-dimensional object, we don't interpret the image as a two-dimensional arrangement of forms and surfaces, but as a representation of a three-dimensional object from a two-dimensional perspective. When we draw a dice, there are basically only 9 lines visible. And since we understand the concept of three-dimensionality, we automatically interpret the representation as a three-dimensional cube. The understanding of two-dimensional reality is a necessary prerequisite for understanding the third dimension. And likewise, mental training is the prerequisite to understand the spiritual level and to express it in symbols and concepts. Just as mathematics is the basis of drawing in perspective, the mental level is the basis for a spiritual expansion of consciousness. He who rejects thinking or reason cannot at all or only very vaguely conceive higher wisdom. The divine name of Hod is Elohim Sephirot. It means God of the hosts. The archangel of Hod is Michael, whose name means who is like God. With this analytical battle cry, he put Samael and his followers in their place during their rebellion. The host of angels of Hod are the Beni Elohim, meaning sons of the gods. These spiritual beings of the inner planes are associated with the founders of culture, deified teachers, or the demigods of other traditions. The planet Mercury is assigned to Hod. In Kabbalistic astrology, Mercury stands for analytical thinking. The position of Mercury in the horoscope shows how and in which area of life we apply our thinking. In the human body, the right loin, right hip and right leg are assigned to Hod. Also, the eights of the minor arcana are assigned to Hod. The eights stand for redirection of energies according to the respective element. The virtues of Hod are honesty, veracity, and truthfulness, logical thinking, the power to make correct judgments and to argument, language, and communication skills, as well as the power of concentration. The vices of Hod are falsehood, dishonesty, and careless speech. The allegorical pictorial representation of Hod is the hermaphrodite. In Greek mythology, the son of Aphrodite, Netzach, and Hermes, Hod, Hermaphroditos, is united with the nymph Salmacis into a bisexual being. The hermaphrodite stands for the form principle, Hod, which is inspired by the principle of power, Netzach. The spiritual experience of Hod is the vision of splendor. This is the vision of mental clarity. It is the vivid realization that we can rely on our logical thinking and that we can trust our own reasoning.
Yesod means foundation or basis, because Yesod is the astral matrix of the material world. Yesod is the principle of the collective subconscious. If Netzach is the hero's victory over his enemies and Hod is the hero's glory, then Yesod is the remembrance of this in the collective subconscious of humanity. In the macrocosmic tree of life, Yesod stands for the astral plane. The astral plane is sometimes called the treasury of images because it also represents the level of the subconscious mind and the dream consciousness of man. The mystery student works on the astral plane especially in his meditations. In the Brotherhood of the Eternal Light, the meditation of the inner temple is used to gain deep access to the astral reality and to come into conscious contact with the different parts of the soul. The mystery student should be aware that the astral plane can be the realm of illusions and shifting images that do not come from a higher consciousness but spring from his own lower self and its unconscious inclinations. At the same time, the astral plane is malleable and easily assumes any shape that the person forms through the power of his thoughts and meditations. With an increasing meditation routine and the support of experienced spiritual mentors, he shall learn to distinguish between the noises of higher wisdom and the whisperings of his lower inclinations. Just as the meaning of the term Yesod implies, it is also about developing an inner emotional balance in order to view the astral patterns with inner calm and equanimity, as well as, through an increasing independence from unwanted influences, the ability to receive higher wisdom with discernment. The symbols of Yesod are the censer or the incense, as well as the magical circle, the consecrating oils and consecrated water, and the sandals. Let us take a closer look at two of these symbols. When we burn precious incense, we offer a sacrifice to the light. And just as the incense rises to heaven, our soul may rise into the higher spheres. Fragrances have always been closely linked to the subconscious mind and the emotional part of the soul. A fragrance directly touches our heart. The magical circle which we draw on the astral plane in ritual work serves to separate the ritual place from the profane world. The lower self is attributed to Yesod, In the Kabbalah, it is called Nefesh, Hebrew for breeze, breath, or living being. It is the expression most frequently used for the soul in the Holy Scripture. The lower self is also referred to as the emotional soul, or sometimes as the power self. Another name of Yesod is Tzaddik, the righteous one. Also, Zicharon, remembrance or memory, and Kol, everything, are names given to Yesod. Both represent the aspect of the collective subconscious. Brit, covenant, is also a term for Yesod. It stands for the alliance of God with those who serve the light. And Od, sign, means, amongst other things, the letters of the Hebrew Aleph Beit, which are considered sacred. Makor Mayim Chayim, source of the waters of life, describes Yesod as a lasting source of inexhaustible vitality. The color of Yesod is violet. It is the color that has always been associated with transcendence, spirituality, and the mysteries. Traditionally, according to Cordovero, the color orange is assigned to Yesod. This is a mixture of the traditional colors of all the Sefirot between Chesed and Hod and represents the receptive character of Yesod. The divine name of Yesod is Shaddai El Chai. This means Almighty Living God. This emphasizes the inner quality and power that underlie any external changes and which are linked with the life force in Yesod. The archangel of Yesod is Gabriel. He is also known under his anglicized name Gabriel. His name means Mighty One of God. Literally, it means my power is God or my hero is God. The angelic host of Yesod are the Cheruvim. This means the blessing ones. The moon is assigned to Yesod. In Kabbalistic astrology, the moon represents sensitivity. The position of the moon in the horoscope indicates what we are receptive for and in which area of life this receptivity manifests. In the human body, the sexual or reproductive organs are assigned to Yesod. The nines of the minor arcana of the tarot are assigned to Yesod. The nines represent an effect from within. Just as the astral matrix is the foundation of material reality, the external world follows whatever changes we make in our internal world. The virtues of Yesod are independence from unwanted influences, control over one's own emotions, impartiality, and spiritual virginity. The vices of Yesod are laziness, convenience, exaggerated passivity, suggestibility, and moodiness. The symbolic representation of Yesod is a beautiful, naked, and very strong man. The spiritual experience of Yesod is the vision of the machinery of the universe. It consists of recognizing and mastering the function. Malchut means kingdom, because Malchut is the principle of manifestation in the material world. Therefore, Malchut stands for the material plane on a macrocosmic tree of life. The material plane consists of a physical and an etheric realm. Check out our videos about the etheric plane and related topics. Links can be found in the description below. Our videos include topics such as the aura, the etheric body, and the projection of the etheric and astral body, production of energetic storages or talismans, and much more. The pictorial representation of Malchut is a gorgeous young queen on her throne. This symbolism is closely linked to the Shekhinah, the presence of God on earth. The Shekhinah plays a special role in the Jewish tradition, for instance at Shabbat, and in the symbolism of the Kabbalah. The Shekhinah carries a part of the karma of the world and thus relieves our souls. A traditional name of Malchut is Beracha, which means blessing or source of blessing. On the one hand, this refers to the Shekhinah as a source of all blessings. On the other hand, it indicates that there is a divine spark dormant in all the earthly things, and that a blessing can emerge through the fruits of our good deeds. Other names of Malchut are Yam, sea, because the influences of all Sefirot flow into Malchut like rivers flow into the sea, and also Evan, stone or rock. because Malchut stands for the densest form of existence and for the earthly heaviness. The symbols of Malchut are the altar and the temple. Both the temple and the altar serve the veneration of the sacred divine principles, as well as the veneration of creation and the light. An important part of our spiritual work in Malchut is the path of the hearth fire. In the Kabbalah, everyday duties are considered an important area of learning and spiritual growth. All encounters and everyday actions of the mystery student, for example at work, during leisure time, in partnership and household, as well as in social contacts, in dealing with domestic and farm animals, should be carried out with a blessing. The mystery student should not neglect his duties, and he shall live his ethical ideals. The colors of Malchut are lemon yellow, olive green, rust red, and black. These are the colors of the elements in their earthly form. Traditionally, according to Cordovero, the color of Malchut is a deep blue, the color of the Shekhinah. Adonai Ha-Aretz is the divine name of Malchut. The meaning is ambiguous and is generally translated as Lord of the Earth. Literally translated, the word Adonai means my lords. However, due to a peculiarity of the grammar, it is regarded as neither a clearly male nor a female word form in Kabbalistic interpretation. It is therefore interpreted as my lord and my lady, and often associated with the Shekhinah. The archangel of Malchut is Sandalphon. According to tradition, he is the prophet Elijah, who has been transformed into an archangel. Since he was a human once and knows the material plane well, he is the archangel of Malchut. In legends and stories about him, it is reported that he still descends to the earth in human form, to act as a karmic helper of men and to lessen the burden of the Shekhinah. The host of angels of Malchut are the Ishim. This means heroic people, princes, or personalities. In the Kabbalah, the Ishim are those who have attained salvation or holiness and are liberated from the cycle of rebirth. Simply put, they are those people who have learned everything in the world of form and have perfected their souls, so that they do not need to reincarnate anymore. The path from Keter into manifestation is called the track of the lightning flash. The complete way back along the track of the lightning flash is also called Jacob's ladder. To learn everything in the world of form means in the Kabbalah to climb up the tree of life, or Jacob's ladder. In doing so, the personality and soul of the mystery student are being perfected, by his actualizing the virtues of the Sefirot and transforming their vices, thus completing his spiritual development. The Ishim then continue to exist on the spiritual planes. From the inner planes, they inspire or guide human beings for higher purposes. The lunar nodes are assigned to Malchut. In Kabbalistic astrology, the position of the ascending lunar node shows what is particularly manifested in the current incarnation. The descending lunar node shows what we shall let go of or what we should become independent of. In the human body, the feet are assigned to Malchut. The tenths of the minor arcana belong to Malchut. They stand for the final material realization of the respective element. The pages or princesses of the tarot are also assigned to Malchut. The virtues of Malchut are the ability to discriminate and a sense of responsibility. The vices of Malchut are materialism and dogmatism as well as sloth. The spiritual experience of Malchut is the vision of the holy guardian angel. That does not only mean to build the astral image of your holy guardian angel during meditation, but mainly to live in a conscious and active connection with your higher self. This connection enables the mystery student to reach a deep understanding of the meaning of his life, that is, of his life task and true will. Therefore, we call it the vision of the meaning.